If you struggle with problem gambling, this video is for you. This channel is for you. My name's Matt. I am a compulsive gambler in recovery, and I like to think of myself as your mind and movement mentor, here to help you. So, big one today. This is more for my fellow compulsive problem gamblers, as opposed to people that are just casually interested in the topic. But of course, everyone welcome to watch and gain insight. So for me, it will be 9 months without gambling tomorrow. And I suppose there is a thinking in my mind always around maintaining some proactivity with my recovery, in fear, for want of a better word, of the risk of relapse. My last 3 relapses have all happened in October, which is quite interesting. And if I was to think about that, I think to an extent that's aligned with the end of the summertime and a short period into the start of the new football season, if I had to guess. But that's something that I've got to be mindful of, celebrating 9 months tomorrow. But when it comes to relapse prevention, you've got to think proactively about your recovery. You've got to check in with yourself on the regular as to how you are doing. I've used this analogy before and I love this. I like to think of relapse as like a plane crash. What do I mean by that? So planes, for the most part, just don't fall out of the sky. And I'm not a great flyer, to be honest. I get a bit of anxiety. Not a good flyer at all, but that's another story. They don't just fall out of the sky. There is a series of things that would happen. So say, for example, 4 months ago, someone didn't do the maintenance checks correctly. 4 days ago, someone didn't do something. And then on the day, the weather was different to how it was supposed to be, and the pilot made an error. So it's the 4 things that accumulate to the problem. If 3 of them happen out of the 4, it's probably okay. No one really knows, the flight just carries on. It's when all 4 happen together. So that's you thinking to yourself, when am I at the first rung of the ladder? What is the 3 months, 4 months before the flight in this analogy? For me, that can look like taking an interest in the odds of sporting events that I'm going to watch anyway, but my brain just says, I wonder who is the favourite. That can be innocuous as well as just something that I do as almost like an unconscious compulsion, and it's not necessarily serious. But when I start getting overly invested in sports statistics, even if in my mind I'm still okay, I'm still, I was going to say sane then, pardon the expression, but I still feel like I'm in a good place. I've got kind of momentum with my recovery. I may be talking to people relatively regularly, opening up about how I'm feeling. I'm attending some Gamblers Anonymous groups. I'm being proactive. That could be like a little crack in the dam that could then potentially escalate. Because what you don't want to be, again, pardon all the analogies, but be the frog in the boiling water that just doesn't kind of see it coming. And this relapse is like the crescendo of you suppressing down things and rationalizing certain behaviors that then accumulate. Because the addiction, like I always say, will speak to you in your own voice. So there's no problems with these things that are happening on the outskirts. And it takes some key identification to maybe think, okay, how much time is gambling occupying my mind now? How much am I thinking about things that seem irrelevant, but could be a slight segue to just move the needle towards gambling? That's a really good activity to do, to just kind of to check in with yourself. If you play slots, it might be watching other videos of other people playing slots, looking at adverts, being curious about what new places are opening up within your vicinity. Harmless, because you haven't done anything, but it's just kind of starting to light the match of what could potentially take you off in the wrong direction. And that's something that I really try to be mindful of, because it can insidiously escalate. It really, really can. And I'm not one of these people, and I've met people like this who have just said, the relapse just came out of nowhere. And this could be you, by the way. Like, one day, I was just like, screw it, I'm gonna have a bet today. And really, there was no almost kind of like warning or build up. I always get like a warning. Before my last relapse, I went into a bookmaker's 7 times and left without placing a bet. It was almost like I was being ground down over time, to which in the end I just went, okay, let's just do it to stop the madness. So I've really got to make sure that almost by the first time I'm even in the bookmakers, that's too late. The plane's in the air. So what can I do to mitigate that and be conscious of where I'm at? And I think that comes from checking in with other people. It's great to have a community of other people who are problem gamblers, who understand this cunning, powerful and baffling disease. Because normal people, and I use the term normal loosely, very loaded term, will only understand to a certain extent. So the more that you've got allies, the better. That's the main thing I would say, is noticing the little things that you can just rationalize, because the needle will almost move invisibly and you will rationalize yourself at every single point. So you can get to here and it still be harmless. I'm just going to walk into the betting shop and just see if the screens are still working, and that guy that I used to like say hello to, and if the fact, and maybe, I don't know, just check to see what the odds are on the massive football match today that everyone's talking about, and then I'm going to walk, and that's still fine. And the next thing you know, you're filling out a slip, you're up at you're drawing out cash out the cash point, you know, you're kind of beyond the point of no return. So for me, I think it's about getting the balance of not being scared of a relapse, because things can get a little bit self-fulfilling. And another mindset I like as well is you want to think like there is so much at stake. Like, you will not relapse by hook or by crook. Like, in my mind at the moment, I am cast iron granite. I'm never gambling again. I tell you, I'm not gambling again. I'm not going through the angst, the anxiety, the feelings of impending doom, the sleepless nights, the digestive issues that I had in October and November last year, the nervous system being absolutely fried to a state of panic and just overwhelm. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing that again. But at the same time, it's naive to think that you're not going to be tested. And it's important to think that, like, you're putting a huge barrier in place, as in, like, it is the most important that I don't relapse. If I need to have a wall chart with my streak on it, with colours that make it look like a reward, that I don't want to, you know, I'm quite a visual person, maybe that's just my ADHD, but something like that would really kind of speak to me, you know, like not wanting to kind of ruin a pattern of a picture or something like that. You've got to have something that is at the forefront of your mind as to how important it is that you don't relapse constantly. But then simultaneously in your mind, you've got to have a conflicting mindset that if you do relapse, it's not a big deal and you're just going to get back to recovery straight away. Your bounce back ability is going to be so quick. You're not going to hesitate to reach out and tell someone that you've done it, and you're just going to deal with it quickly. And it's strange because they're almost kind of conflicting mindsets, that like, it's never, ever, ever going to happen. It's so important that it doesn't. But if it does, it's just boom. And maybe that's just the way my mind works. That's the kind of the best analogy that I've got of the way that you can kind of think about it, because relapse is a thing. As much as I can sit here and say I will never ever gamble again, in my heart of hearts, I truly believe that, as I say this statement on Thursday, the 31st of July at 3 p.m. You know, things happen and life is as life is, and recovery is about life on life's terms, as a good friend of mine always says. So I hope this helps. I want this channel to kind of become a community feel about people maybe in the comments supporting each other's recovery. I want it to be recovery focused. I don't want it to be gambling bashing. I don't want it to be this cope-like content that you get on other platforms of just how bad life is. I want this to be kind of like solidarity of recovery with like-minded people, and me sharing my experiences that hopefully you can relate to, you can resonate, and help people with this problem, because it's only getting worse. Like I always say in these videos, I'm not going to say it again, but the trajectory is so alarming of where we're going with this, getting worse by the day. And it's challenging. I know that from over a quarter of a century in the trenches trying to deal with gambling addiction. So I hope this helps you in some way, shape or form. Please leave me a comment. I respond to all of the comments. Love hearing from you guys. Subscribing helps me reach more people and spread a message I'm incredibly passionate about. Grateful to everyone taking the time out to watch. I will speak to you all in the next video very, very soon.